The massive space station Nexus Prime floated in the void between star systems. Its crystal towers gleamed under the light of distant suns. Inside the main council chamber, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in a perfect circle. Each delegation occupied ornate seats designed for their unique body types. Commander Juan straightened his dark blue uniform and walked to the center of the chamber. The human delegation was small compared to others. Only 12 people represented, all of Earth and its colonies. Juan felt the weight of countless alien eyes watching him. Some were curious, others showed respect. A few displayed the polite indifference that came with centuries of galactic politics. The Nexarian Council speaker, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, gestured for silence. The chamber grew quiet except for the soft hum of life support. Systems. The Council recognizes Commander Juan of the Terran Federation, the speaker announced. Its voice carried through translation devices worn by every delegate. Juan bowed slightly. This was how humans showed respect in the galactic community. They had learned quickly that manners mattered more than military might in these halls. Honored representatives, Juan began. Earth brings gifts of knowledge and friendship to our galactic family. He nodded to Taemin, who stood beside a covered display. Taemin was Earth's chief scientist for alien biology. His gentle manner and brilliant mind had earned respect throughout the galaxy. When he pulled away the covering, a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air. The image showed microscopic organisms swimming in what looked like glowing water. The organisms pulsed with soft blue light as they moved. We call them hope cells, Taemin explained. These organisms can repair genetic damage at the cellular level. Our tests show they can cure the genetic plague affecting the Velkan people. A gasp came from the Velkan delegation. Their species had been dying for 3 generations. No cure existed. Their homeworld's population had dropped from billions to millions. The lead Velkan delegate, a thin being with translucent skin, stood on shaking legs. You would share this freely? Taemin smiled. Knowledge belongs to all thinking beings. We ask for nothing in return except continued friendship. Murmurs of approval filled the chamber. This was typical human behavior. In the past century, Earth had shared advanced agriculture with starving colonies. They had provided clean energy technology to polluted worlds. They had sent doctors and teachers to primitive civilizations without asking for payment. The galaxy had come to see humans as the universe's caregivers. They were the species that solved problems other races had given up on. They asked for little and gave much. Juan felt pride as he watched alien faces light up with hope. Earth had built its reputation through acts like this. Humans were seen as wise, generous, and peaceful. They preferred words to weapons and healing to hurting. But Su Jin, sitting quietly in the back of the human delegation, was not paying attention to the celebration. She wore the simple gray robes of a cultural attaché. To everyone else, she was just another human diplomat interested in art and philosophy. In reality, Su Jin was Earth's top intelligence officer in this sector. While the others spoke of friendship and cooperation, she listened to whispered conversations through advanced surveillance equipment hidden in her ceremonial jewelry. Her expression remained calm and interested, but inside she felt growing alarm. The Krillian ambassador was speaking in hushed tones to his aide about cleaning house and removing obstacles. The hegemony delegate kept checking a personal communicator that displayed star charts of human colony systems. Most disturbing was, a conversation between two species that had been publicly grateful for human medical aid just months earlier. They spoke in an old trade language, probably thinking no human would understand it. They were wrong. The test run proceeds as planned. One whispered, "Good. The remote location was wise. No one will notice until it is too late. And afterward? Total implementation. Earth will never see it coming." Sujin's blood ran cold, but her face showed nothing. Years of training kept her expression neutral as she continued to listen. The ceremony continued around her. Tai Min was explaining how the hope cells could be mass-produced. Several species offered to help with distribution. The Velkins were openly weeping with joy. Juan spoke about Earth's commitment to galactic peace. He quoted human philosophers and poets. He talked about the shared destiny of all intelligent life, the chamber filled with warm feelings and promises of cooperation. Then the communication system crackled to life. "Emergency transmission incoming," announced the station's AI. "Priority Alpha from Kepler 442 system." The chamber fell silent. Priority Alpha meant immediate danger to civilian populations. The main display screen flickered and showed the face of Dr. Yoon Ho, the administrator of New Seoul Colony. Yoon Ho looked terrified. Behind him, alarms were blaring. Red emergency lights flashed across his face. "This is New Seoul Colony reporting massive unidentified ships approaching our system," he said quickly. "They are not responding to communication attempts. Repeat, unknown fleet approaching. We count at least 20 vessels of unfamiliar design. They are..." The transmission dissolved into static. The screen showed only electronic snow. Juan felt his stomach drop. Kepler 442 was one of Earth's newest colonies. 50,000 civilians lived there, mostly researchers and their families. It was far from any shipping lanes or military zones. "Attempt to re-establish contact," ordered the council speaker. The communications officer tried several times. Only static came back. "Could be equipment failure," suggested the Altarian delegate. "Remote colonies often have technical problems." But Sujin knew better. The conversations she had overheard suddenly made terrible sense. A remote location. A test. Run. No one would notice until too late. Juan was already activating his personal communicator. "Priority message to Earth Command. We have a potential crisis situation." "Perhaps we are reacting too quickly," said the hegemony delegate smoothly. "Space is dangerous. Many things can cause communication failures." Several other delegates agreed. They spoke about not jumping to conclusions. They suggested waiting for more information before taking action. Sujin watched their faces carefully. Some showed genuine concern. Others displayed emotions that did not match their words. She saw satisfaction hidden behind masks of worry. She saw anticipation disguised as confusion. The truth was becoming clear. This was not an accident. This was not a random attack by pirates or raiders. This was something planned, something coordinated, and Earth had walked right into it. Juan was still trying to maintain diplomatic composure. "The Council's wisdom is appreciated, but Earth must investigate immediately. We have people out there." "Of course," said the Council speaker. "Earth has the right to protect its citizens. We will monitor the situation and provide any assistance needed." But as the human delegation prepared to leave, Sujin caught more whispered conversations. Phrases like "Phase 1 complete" and "Now we wait" reached her ears. The truth hit her like a physical blow. Earth's reputation for peace and generosity had made them a target. Their willingness to help others had been seen as weakness. Their small military and spread-out colonies had been viewed as vulnerability. Someone in this chamber knew exactly what was happening to New Sol Colony. Someone had planned it. And Earth, trusting and helpful Earth, had never seen it coming. As they hurried toward their ship, Su-Jin grabbed Juan's arm. "Sir, we need to talk privately. What I heard in there," she began. Juan looked at her serious expression and nodded. "As soon as we're aboard." Neither of them knew that they were already too late for New Sol Colony. The 50,000 civilians were already dead, killed in the most efficient and methodical way possible. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had many faces, and some of them were not nearly as civilized as they appeared. The Earth Fleet vessel. Harmony's edge cut through space at maximum speed. Its engines glowed bright blue as they pushed the ship faster than was strictly safe. Captain Ji-ho stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur past on the main screen. 3 weeks had passed since the last transmission from New Sol Colony. 3 weeks of hoping it was just equipment failure or a solar storm that knocked out communications. 3 weeks of telling himself that 50,000 people were not dead. But Ji-ho had been in space long enough to know when hope was just fear wearing a different mask. "Drop to normal space in 60 seconds, announced Young-ho from the pilot's station. The young man's hands moved smoothly across the controls. He had been flying since he was 16 and could make any ship dance through space like it was alive. "All stations report ready," said Min-Soo from engineering. The stocky man had kept their engines running at dangerous speeds for 3 weeks without a single problem. His dedication to his work was legendary throughout the fleet. Hyojin checked her medical equipment one more time. The ship's doctor had prepared for everything from radiation poisoning to alien diseases. Her sick bay was stocked with enough supplies to treat hundreds of patients. They all expected to find survivors. Maybe the colony had been evacuated. Maybe they were hiding in underground shelters. Maybe the attackers had taken prisoners instead of killing everyone. None of them expected what they actually found. The Kepler 442 system looked normal from a distance. The star burned steady and bright. The planets moved in their regular orbits. Nothing seemed wrong until they got closer to Kepler 442b. "Captain, I'm reading debris in orbit around the colony world," reported Nara from the sensor station. The forensic specialist's voice was calm, but Ji-ho could hear tension underneath. "Put it on screen." The main display showed pieces of metal, floating in space. Some were the size of cars. Others were as small as coins. All of it had once been part of ships or orbital platforms. "Are those our defense satellites?" asked Young-ho. Nara studied her readings. "Confirmed. The orbital defense grid has been completely destroyed. I'm also detecting wreckage from at least 12 civilian transport ships." Ji-ho felt his chest tighten. Those transports could have been evacuation ships. Could have been people trying to escape. Any life signs? Negative. No active transponders, no emergency beacons, no communications of any kind. They moved closer to the planet. New Sol Colony had been built in a beautiful valley surrounded by mountains. From space, the settlement looked like a small city with neat rows of buildings, green parks, and wide streets. It still looked the same. "That's strange," muttered Min-Soo. "If there was an attack, shouldn't we see damage?" Nara was already scanning the surface with every sensor they had. "Buildings appear intact. Infrastructure shows no significant damage. Power grid is still functioning in most sectors." Ji-ho felt confused and hopeful at the same time. Maybe the colonists had surrendered without a fight. Maybe they had been taken prisoner but not harmed. "Take us down," he ordered. "Landing Bay 7. The Harmony's edge descended through the atmosphere. The colony's automated systems guided them to a perfect landing. Everything seemed normal until they opened the ship's doors. The silence was the first thing they noticed. New Sol Colony should have been full of noise, vehicles moving through streets, people talking and laughing, children playing in the parks. Construction sounds from the expanding sections. Instead, there was nothing but wind. The landing bay was empty except for their ship. Normally, it would have been busy with cargo shuttles and passenger transports. Now it felt like a tomb. Squad leaders, report in. Jiho spoke into his communicator as they formed up outside the ship. Alpha Squad ready, came the reply from the military team. Beta Squad standing by, reported the technical specialists. Medical team prepared, added He-Jin. They moved into the colony in 3 groups. Alpha Squad secured the main administrative buildings. Beta Squad checked the power plant and communication center. The medical team headed for the hospital and residential areas. Jiho went with the medical team. He wanted to see what had happened to the families first. The streets were clean and well-maintained. Flowers still grew in the parks. Shop windows displayed goods that would never be sold. But there were no people anywhere. Captain, this is Alpha Squad. Administrative center is empty but undamaged. Computer systems are still running. No signs of struggle. Beta Squad here. Power plant operating normally. Communication equipment has been deliberately disabled but not destroyed. Very precise work. Jiho and the medical team reached the residential district. The houses looked normal from outside. Gardens were neat. Vehicles sat parked in driveways. Hye-jin tried the door of the first house. It was unlocked. Inside, they found the truth. The family was still there. All of them. A mother, father, and 2 children sitting around their dinner table. The food was still on their plates, now covered with 3 weeks of dust. But the family was dead. Hye-jin knelt beside the mother and examined her carefully. No wounds, no signs of violence, no obvious cause of death. They checked the next house. Same thing. A family dead at their table. The house after that contained an elderly couple who had died watching television. The next held 3 generations of a family who had died during what looked like a birthday party. House after house revealed the same scene. Entire families dead where they sat. No struggle, no panic, no attempt to run or hide. "This is impossible," whispered one of the medical technicians. 50,000 people don't just die at the same time. But Nara was already finding answers with her forensic equipment. She had taken samples from several bodies and was running tests in the ship's laboratory. "Captain, you need to see this," her voice came over the communicator. They rushed back to the ship. Nara had spread her findings across multiple screens in the lab. Cause of death was neural disruption, she explained. Something interfered with their brain activity and shut down all voluntary functions. Heart, lungs, everything just stopped. "Some kind of weapon?" asked Jiho. "Definitely, but very sophisticated. It targeted specific neural pathways while leaving the brain tissue undamaged. Whoever did this has technology far beyond anything in our medical databases." Hye-jin studied the test results. This would have been painless. They probably didn't even realize what was happening. "Small mercy," muttered Min-soo. But Nara was not finished. "I also found trace elements that don't belong in human bodies. Microscopic particles of metals not native to this world." She brought up another screen showing molecular analysis. "These particles form a specific pattern. It's like a signature." Jiho stared at the data. You're saying we can identify who did this? Not just who. I can tell you exactly which ships were used and what kind of weapons they fired. Nara's fingers moved across her controls. The laboratory's main screen filled with technical specifications. The particles match residue from Dominion Coalition weapon systems, specifically their neural disruption cannons. These weapons are supposed to be used only for non-lethal crowd control. The room went quiet. The Dominion Coalition was one of Earth's closest allies in the galactic community. They had signed peace treaties. They traded with human colonies. Earth had provided them with medical aid just 6 months ago. Are you certain? Ji-Ho asked. Completely. The molecular signature is unique to Dominion manufacturing processes. There is no possibility of error. Young-Ho spoke up from the communication station. Captain, I've been analyzing the colony's security recordings. Most were damaged, but I recovered some footage from backup systems. The main screen changed to show grainy security video. The timestamp showed 3 weeks ago, just after the last transmission to Nexus Prime. The video showed Dominion Coalition ships entering the atmosphere. Not just one or two, dozens of them. They moved in perfect formation and positioned themselves over the colony. Then they fired. Beams of energy swept across the settlement in precise patterns. Every building was hit. Every street was covered. The beams did not damage structures or vehicles. They only affected living beings. The colonists died instantly. All of them. At exactly the same moment. This was not a battle, said Nara quietly. This was an execution. Ji-Ho felt something cold growing in his chest. Something that had nothing to do with grief and everything to do with rage. They used weapons designed for crowd control to commit mass murder, he said slowly. They killed every man, woman, and child in this colony. But why? Asked Hyojin. The Dominion Coalition has been our ally for decades. Young-Ho had been studying more of the security footage. His face had gone pale. Captain, there's something else. The ships didn't leave immediately. After the attack, they stayed for several hours. Doing what? Collecting data. They scanned every building, every system, every piece of technology. It's like they were studying our colony infrastructure. The truth hit them all at the same time. This had not been an isolated attack. This had been a test. The Dominion Coalition had used New Sol Colony as a practice target. They had tested their weapons, studied human defenses, and gathered intelligence about colonial operations. They were preparing for something much larger. Ji-Ho activated the ship's priority communication system. All stations, prepare for immediate departure, maximum speed to Earth. Sir? Questioned Young-Ho. The Earth Command Headquarters building rose from the Swiss mountains like a monument to human achievement. Its white towers gleamed in the morning sun, connected by bridges that seemed to float in the air. Inside the deepest levels, Admiral Dong-Hyun sat at the head of a table surrounded by Earth's most powerful leaders. The room had no windows. The walls showed only blank metal surfaces. Security was absolute. What they were about to discuss could never be overheard. Dong-Hyun looked older than his 60 years. The report from New Sol Colony had aged him overnight. Gray hair that had been neat was now disheveled. Eyes that usually showed confidence now held something darker. Tell them what you found, he said to Su-Jin. The intelligence officer stood and activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the table. Star charts, ship movements, communication intercepts, faces of alien delegates who had seemed friendly just days before. New Sol Colony was not an isolated incident, Su-Jin began. It was part of a coordinated plan called Solution Protocol 7. President Mi-Young leaned forward. She was a Small woman who had earned her position through brilliance and determination. Today she looked tired and worried. Explain Solution Protocol 7. Su-Jin touched her controls. The display showed a timeline stretching back 3 years. The plan began with a simple question posed by the Dominion Coalition to other galactic powers. What would happen if humanity continued to grow and expand? She pointed to intercepts of alien communications. They calculated that within 50 years, human colonies would outnumber alien settlements. Within a century, human technology would surpass most galactic civilizations. Jin Woo, Earth's Director of Strategic Intelligence, spoke up from across the table. They see us as an invasive species. Worse, said Su-Jin, they see us as a replacement species. Our rapid adaptation, our willingness to help other races, our expansion rate, it all adds up to one conclusion in their minds. The display changed. To show population projections and resource calculations, they believe that within 2 centuries, humanity will be the dominant force in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through simple growth and cultural influence. Admiral Dong-hyun felt his hands clench into fists. So they decided to stop us first. 14 different species signed secret agreements, Su-Jin continued. The public, councils have been a facade. Behind closed doors, they have been planning what they call the Human Limitation Protocol. More images appeared. Meeting records, resource allocations, ship movements. Phase 1 was testing. They needed to understand our defensive capabilities and response times. New Sol Colony was chosen because it was isolated and undefended. President Mi-young's voice was cold when she spoke. How many other test sites were there? 7 that we know of. All remote colonies, all completely destroyed. Total civilian casualties, 340,000 men, women, and children. Silence filled the room. The number was too large to comprehend immediately. Each person around the table tried to imagine that many people dying at once. Phase 2 involves simultaneous attacks on all major human colonies, Su-Jin continued. The plan is to destroy our expansion capability while keeping Earth isolated. And Phase 3? Asked Jin Woo, though his voice suggested he already knew. Direct assault on Earth itself, complete extermination of the human species. The holographic display showed Earth surrounded by red markers indicating attack fleets. The numbers were overwhelming. Hundreds of ships from multiple species, all converging on humanity's home world. General Kyung-soo had been quiet until now. The head of Earth's military forces was a man who chose his words carefully. When? He asked simply. Phase 2 begins. In 18 days, replied Su-Jin. Phase 3 follows immediately if Phase 2 succeeds. President Mi-young stood and walked to the blank wall. She pressed her palm against a hidden scanner. A section of the wall slid away to reveal a window, overlooking the Alps. For 100 years, we have been the galaxy's helpful neighbors, she said without turning around. We shared our medicine. We provided food to hungry worlds. We sent teachers and doctors to primitive civilizations. She turned back to face the room. We did this because we believed in the fundamental goodness of intelligent life. We thought that cooperation was better than competition. We assumed that other species would treat us the way we treated them. Her voice grew harder with each word. We were wrong. Admiral Dong-hyun activated his own set of controls. New images appeared in the holographic display. These showed human installations that looked nothing like the peaceful colonies and research stations the galaxy knew about. Earth has not been idle during our century of expansion, he said. While we sent diplomats and doctors to alien worlds, we also sent other things. The first image showed what appeared to be a communication relay station orbiting a gas giant. The next image showed the same station with its outer shell removed. Inside was a weapons platform capable of destroying entire fleets. Project Shepherd, explained General Kyung-soo. Every communication relay we built in the past 50 years is actually a military installation. We have armed platforms in 47 star systems. More images appeared, mining operations that were actually shipyards, research stations that manufactured weapons, agricultural worlds that grew soldiers instead of food. We have been preparing for this day since we first left Earth, said Admiral Dong-hyun. Not because we wanted war, but because we knew it might come. Jin-woo stood and activated another display. This one showed alien worlds with small red dots scattered across their surfaces. Every cultural exchange program we sponsored placed surveillance equipment on alien worlds, he explained. Every medical mission included intelligence gathering, operations. Every humanitarian aid package contained monitoring devices. President Mi-young looked around the room at faces that showed surprise, horror, and growing understanding. We know the location of every alien military base, every government center, every population cluster, she continued. We have detailed maps of their infrastructure, their defensive capabilities, their resource storage facilities. We also know their weaknesses, added Soo-jin. The medicine we gave them contained genetic markers. The food we provided included specific nutrients that make them dependent on human-manufactured supplements. The technology we shared has built-in control systems. General Kyung-soo brought up a final set of images. These showed human ships that looked nothing like the elegant exploration vessels the galaxy was familiar with. These were brutal, angular, craft designed for one purpose only. The Ghost Fleet, he said simply. 3,000 ships built in secret over the past 30 years. They have been positioned throughout the galaxy disguised as asteroids, disabled hulks, and space debris. President Mi-young returned to her seat. The weight of what they were discussing seemed to press down on everyone in the room. The galaxy wants to exterminate humanity because they fear we will become too powerful, she said slowly. They plan to murder billions of innocent people to prevent a future that might never happen. She looked around the table at each person present. They believe we are a threat to their way of life. They think we are too dangerous to be allowed to exist. President Mi-young stood again. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had just made the most important decision in human history. They are absolutely correct. The room went completely silent. For 100 years we have been playing by their rules, she continued. We have been civilized, diplomatic, and peaceful. We have followed galactic law and respected alien sovereignty. She walked back to the window and looked out at the mountains. They want to see monsters? They want to know what humanity looks like when we stop being polite? She turned back to face the room. Her expression had changed. Gone was the worried leader, trying to protect her people. In her place stood something harder and more dangerous. Now we stop being cultured. Admiral Dong-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. He had served in Earth's military for 40 years. He had seen combat against pirates and raiders. He had witnessed the horrors that intelligent beings could inflict on each other. But he had never seen anything as frightening as the look in President Mi-young's eyes when she said those words. Admiral, activate all military protocols. General Kyung-soo, begin Operation Reckoning. Director Jin-woo, release the surveillance data to all fleet commanders. She looked around the room one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, the age of human diplomacy is over. Today we show the galaxy what we really are. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, General Kyung-soo walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The underground complex stretched for kilometers in all directions. For 50 years, the galaxy had believed this was a mining operation, extracting materials for Earth's construction projects. They were wrong. The massive chambers housed something far more dangerous than mining equipment. As blast doors opened before him, Kyung-soo entered a control room the size of a football stadium. Thousands of technicians sat at monitoring stations. Holographic displays showed star charts covering half the galaxy. "Status report," he commanded. Major HFY stepped forward. She had spent 15 years managing this facility, telling her family she worked in mineral processing. The lie had become second nature. "All Damocles stations are online and ready," she reported. 47 weapons platforms positioned throughout Dominion space and Allied territories. On the main display, small blue dots appeared across multiple star systems. Each dot represented a weapon capable of destroying entire cities. Ghost Fleet status? 3,000 ships ready for activation. Current positions allow for simultaneous strikes on all primary targets. Kyung-soo nodded. The Ghost Fleet had been humanity's greatest secret. For 30 years, ships disguised as space debris had drifted through alien space. Some looked like destroyed vessels. Others appeared to be asteroids or comets. All were actually fully functional warships waiting for orders. Communications network? Quantum. Entanglement relays are functioning perfectly. All stations can receive orders instantaneously regardless of distance. Kyung-soo activated his personal communicator. "Dr. Jae-hyun, report to Command Center 1 immediately." Within minutes, an elderly man in a simple gray coat entered the control room. To the galaxy, Dr. Jae-hyun was Earth's Director of Cultural Exchange Programs. He had spent decades arranging art exhibitions, music festivals, and philosophical discussions between humans and aliens. In reality, he was the most dangerous spy in galactic history. "Cultural exchange is ready for phase transition," he reported, calmly. "Explain the scope," ordered Kyung-soo. Dr. Jae-hyun activated a holographic display showing alien worlds throughout the galaxy. Red markers appeared on planets, space stations, and fleet positions. "Every cultural gift we provided contained surveillance equipment," he began. "Artwork with quantum sensors, musical instruments with communication relays, books with data storage, devices." The display showed the incredible extent of human intelligence gathering. Every major alien installation was marked with multiple surveillance points. "We have real-time information on troop movements, fleet positions, government communications, and civilian population centers. The aliens have been unknowingly reporting their own activities to us for decades." General Kyung-soo felt a moment of pride mixed with disgust. Humanity had achieved perfect intelligence gathering by exploiting alien trust and goodwill. It was brilliant strategy and moral catastrophe at the same time. "Medical programs? Even more successful," replied Dr. Jae-hyun. "The medicines we provided to alien populations contained genetic markers. We can now target specific species with biological weapons while leaving others unaffected." A new display showed complex genetic sequences and biological pathways. "The Velkans we saved from genetic plague? The cure we gave them makes them vulnerable to a specific virus we developed. The hegemony forces we treated for radiation poisoning? The treatment included nanobots that remain dormant in their systems." "Activation time for biological weapons? 12 hours from command authorization to full effectiveness." Commander Si-hyun entered the control room at that moment. She commanded Earth's deep space operations, managing what the galaxy believed were exploration and colonization missions. "Sleeper fleet reports ready," she announced. General Kyung-soo turned to the main display. "Show me the positions." The star chart changed to display human colony ships throughout the galaxy. What looked like civilian vessels carrying families and supplies were actually mobile command centers equipped with weapons and military personnel. Each colony ship carries 2,000 troops and enough firepower to destroy a medium-sized fleet, explained Sehayun. They have been positioned near all major alien worlds for the past 20 years. How many? 836 vessels. Total troop strength, 1.7 million soldiers. Kyung-soo studied the positions. Every important alien world had human colonists within striking distance. Every major trade route was monitored by human exploration vessels. Every strategic resource was watched by human research stations. Kinetic weapons status? Major. HFY brought up a new display showing Earth's orbital infrastructure. What looked like industrial platforms and communication arrays revealed their true nature. All orbital installations are armed with relativistic projectile systems, she reported. We can deliver tungsten rods at significant fractions of light speed to any target in the galaxy. The aliens' energy shields? Completely useless against kinetic weapons. Their defensive systems were designed to stop plasma and laser weapons. Solid projectiles moving at near-light speed will pass through their shields like they don't exist. Dr. Jae-hyun added another piece to the puzzle. Our analysis of alien psychology suggests they will not expect kinetic weapons. They consider them primitive and ineffective. Meaning, they will not take proper defensive measures until it is too late. General Kyung-soo walked to the center of the control room. Around him, thousands of displays showed the true extent of human military preparation. Weapons hidden in plain sight, soldiers disguised as civilians, intelligence networks built through cultural exchange. For 100 years, humanity had appeared weak and peaceful to the galaxy. They had seemed like a species more interested in art and philosophy than warfare. Even their military appeared small and primitive compared to alien forces. It had all been an act. "Begin activation sequence," he commanded. Throughout the control room, technicians began entering authorization codes. Display screens flashed as systems came online. Communication channels opened to human agents scattered across the galaxy. On Luna, Mars, and in asteroid bases throughout the solar system, identical scenes played out. Hidden facilities revealed their true purpose. Civilian installations transformed into military command centers. Scientists and artists removed their disguises to reveal the soldiers underneath. Damocles platforms report ready for firing solutions, announced Major HFY. Ghost Fleet acknowledging activation orders, added Commander Si-hyun. Sleeper agents confirming mission parameters, reported Dr. Jae-hyun. General Kyung-soo opened a communication channel to Earth Command. President Mi-young's face appeared on his personal screen. "All systems ready, Madam President. Rules of engagement? Total warfare. No restrictions, no civilians spared, no surrender accepted." President Mi-young's expression remained calm. "The galaxy wanted to exterminate humanity to prevent us from becoming dangerous. They should have acted sooner." Understood. General Kyung-soo, you have authorization to show the galaxy what humanity looks like when we stop pretending to be civilized. The communication ended. General Kyung-soo turned back to his command staff. "All stations, this is Operation Reckoning. Target priority is Dominion Coalition forces and their allies. Secondary targets are any species that supported the genocide. Protocols." He paused to look around the room one final time. "Ladies and gentlemen, for 100 years we have been the galaxy's teachers, doctors, and friends. Today we become something else entirely." Major HFY's voice was steady as she spoke into her headset. All Damocles stations, you are authorized to fire at will. Throughout the galaxy, weapons platforms that had masqueraded as communication relays began targeting alien worlds. Ships that had drifted quietly through space for decades suddenly came alive with power. Soldiers who had spent years pretending to be farmers and researchers picked up weapons they had kept hidden. Commander Se-hyun activated the fleet-wide communication system. Her voice reached every human vessel in the galaxy. All ships, all stations, all personnel. This is Operation Reckoning. The mask comes off today. Dr. Jae-hyun was entering final codes into his intelligence systems. Every piece of surveillance equipment hidden in alien space activated simultaneously. Every monitoring device began transmitting targeting data. Cultural exchange programs are now military intelligence networks, he announced. All alien defensive positions have been compromised. General Kyung-soo watched as the main display filled, with targeting solutions and attack vectors. In a few hours, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their kindness or their wisdom. It had been their ability to lie convincingly while preparing for war. The age of human diplomacy was ending. The age of human dominance was about to begin. Fleet Admiral Chang Min stood on the bridge of the inevitable consequence, watching 17 star systems die at once. The main display showed multiple screens, each focused on a different Dominion Coalition world. What had been thriving civilizations minutes ago were now fields of fire and destruction. The bridge crew worked in perfect silence. After years of pretending to be explorers and peacekeepers, they could finally show their true skills. Every person on the ship was a veteran of Earth's hidden military programs. Report from Damocles 7, announced Communications Officer Eugene. Dominion Prime's orbital defenses have been completely eliminated. Chang Min nodded. The attack had begun exactly as planned. Weapons platforms disguised as communication relays had opened fire simultaneously across Dominion space. The aliens never saw it coming. Status of the Ghost Fleet? All ships activated and engaging targets, replied Captain Wu Jin from his position at the tactical station. No resistance encountered. Enemy forces appear to be in complete disarray. On the main screen, Chang Min watched footage from the assault on Dominion Prime. The capital world of the Coalition was home to 40 billion aliens. Their cities stretched across entire continents. Their orbital platforms housed millions of civilians and military personnel. None of that mattered now. Human ships that had drifted through the system disguised as space debris suddenly came alive. The righteous fury and never again led the attack, their true forms revealed as the fake. Hull plating fell away. What had appeared to be damaged exploration vessels were actually the most advanced warships humanity had ever built. Tungsten rod impacts confirmed on all primary targets, reported Weapons Officer Young Ho. Military installations, government centers and communication hubs have been eliminated. The tungsten rods fell from orbit like metal rain. Each one was no bigger than a telephone pole, but they struck the planet's surface at tremendous speed. The kinetic energy released was equivalent to nuclear weapons, but without the radiation, alien energy shields flickered and failed. Their defensive systems had been designed to stop plasma bolts and laser beams. Solid metal moving at near light speed simply punched through their barriers like they were made of paper. Biological weapons deployment? Asked Chang Min. Dr. So Young checked her readings from the biological warfare station. Atmospheric dispersal complete on all targeted worlds. Genetic-specific viruses are now active in alien population centers. Chang Min felt no satisfaction in the report. The biological weapons were perhaps the most horrible part of Operation Reckoning. For decades, Earth had provided medical aid to alien species. The cures and treatments had saved millions of lives. They had also made those species vulnerable to human-designed diseases. The Velkans, who had wept with joy at receiving a cure for their genetic plague, were now dying from a virus that attacked the very genetic markers the cure had introduced. The hegemony forces, who had been grateful for radiation treatments, found that the nanobots in their blood had activated and were destroying their immune systems. Ground forces report? Colonel Sang-Ho's voice came through the communication system from the surface of Dominion Prime. Android units have secured all primary objectives. Resistance is minimal. The android soldiers had been perhaps Earth's greatest deception. For 30 years, they had served as cultural ambassadors, teachers, and aid workers throughout the galaxy. Aliens had grown comfortable around the helpful robots that looked almost human. Today, those same androids had revealed their true programming. Each unit was a perfect infiltrator and an unstoppable warrior. They knew the layout of every alien city because they had been living there for decades. They understood alien psychology because they had been studying it as guests. Now they moved through alien streets with deadly efficiency, eliminating military targets and securing strategic positions. "Casualties among our forces?" asked Chang Min. "Minimal," replied Sang-Ho. "The androids are encountering almost no effective resistance. Alien weapons are having little impact on their armor." This was another advantage that humanity had kept hidden. While aliens had developed increasingly powerful energy weapons, humans had focused on defense against such weapons. The android. Soldiers wore armor that could absorb and redirect plasma bolts, making them nearly invulnerable to standard alien firearms. Chang Min turned his attention to other battle reports streaming in from across the galaxy. Status of hegemony forces? Fleet Admiral Tae-Young reports complete success, answered Yu-Jin. The hegemony's home system has been secured. Their military responded exactly as our psychological profiles predicted. The hegemony species were proud warriors who believed in honorable combat. They had charged directly at the human ships, expecting a traditional space battle. Instead, they had flown into carefully prepared killing fields where kinetic weapons and biological agents made short work of their fleets. Coalition allies. "Surrendering or already destroyed," reported Captain Wu Jin. "The Zelthari attempted to flee to their hidden bases, but our intelligence networks had already located all of them. The Corvan Federation is requesting terms for conditional surrender." Chang Min studied the tactical displays. In less than 6 hours, humanity had destroyed or crippled the military forces of 14 different species. Worlds that had existed for thousands of years were now under human control. It was the most successful military operation in galactic history. Civilian populations. Dr. So Young checked her biological warfare readings. Non-combatant casualties are significant but not total. The genetic-specific viruses are designed to weaken resistance rather than cause complete extinction. This had been a deliberate choice by Earth's leadership. Complete genocide would make humanity no better than their enemies. Instead, the biological weapons would leave alien populations alive, but too weak to fight for several generations. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced Yu-Jin. President Mi-Young's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Chang Min could see the Earth Command Situation Room filled with displays showing the progress of Operation Reckoning. "Status report, Admiral. Phase 1 objectives achieved ahead of schedule, Madam President. Dominion Coalition military. Capabilities have been eliminated. All allied species are either destroyed or surrendering. Resistance? Negligible." Our intelligence was accurate. They were completely unprepared for kinetic weapons and biological warfare. President Mi Young nodded. Casualties among our forces? Less than 1%. The element of surprise was complete. Very good. Begin Phase 2 immediately. Chang Min felt his chest tighten. Phase 2 meant expanding the attacks to species that had not directly participated in the genocide plot, but had supported it politically. Rules of engagement for Phase 2? Identical to Phase 1. No mercy for those who would have watched humanity die. The communication ended. Chang Min turned back to his staff. All ships prepare for Phase 2 operations. Targets include the Centauri Republic, the Outer Colonies Alliance, and the Independent Systems Coalition. Captain Wu Jin looked up from his station. Sir, the Independent System stayed neutral in the genocide plot. They knew about it and chose not to warn us, replied Chang Min coldly. That makes them accomplices. The bridge crew began preparing for the next wave of attacks. Throughout the galaxy, human forces were moving toward new targets. The Ghost Fleet repositioned itself for strikes on worlds that had thought themselves safe. But Chang Min's attention was drawn to a private communication from his son, Lieutenant Commander Ji Wook, who was serving aboard one of the android deployment ships. Father, the aliens are broadcasting surrender offers on all frequencies. Some are asking for mercy for their civilian populations. Chang Min considered this. The professional soldier in him recognized that the primary military objectives had been achieved. The tactical situation was completely in humanity's favor, but he also remembered the images from New Sol Colony. 50,000 civilians executed, without warning or mercy. Children dead at their dinner tables. Families murdered for the crime of being human. Tell them that humanity considered mercy, he replied to his son. We considered it for exactly as long as they considered mercy for our children. The next wave of attacks began 15 minutes later. More worlds fell under human control. More alien fleets died in the void of space. More species learned that the helpful, peaceful humans they had known were capable of terrible efficiency when pushed too far. By the end of the day, 37 star systems had fallen to human forces. The Dominion Coalition had ceased to exist as a political entity. 6 species had been reduced to pre-industrial technology levels. 3 others had surrendered unconditionally. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson about what happened when you threaten human children, and this was only the beginning. The Galactic Council chambers had never seen anything like this before. Emergency session lights bathed the crystal towers of Nexus Prime in red warning colors. Every species in the galaxy had sent representatives, but many seats remained empty. Their occupants were dead, imprisoned, or hiding in bunkers on devastated worlds. Ambassador Yuna walked into the chamber with calm confidence. She wore the same simple blue diplomatic uniform she had worn for years, but everything else had changed. Behind her walked 6 figures in black armor, carrying weapons that made the alien security forces step back nervously. The chamber fell silent as she approached the center speaking platform. The same platform where humans had offered medical aid and cultural gifts just days before. The Nexarian Council speaker, one of the few surviving members of the old leadership, gestured weakly for attention. Its silver skin had lost its shine, and 2 of its 4 arms hung limp from injuries sustained during the human attacks. The Council recognizes Ambassador Yuna of the Terran Military Authority. Yuna smiled coldly. Thank you, Speaker. Though I should correct the record, Earth no longer recognizes the authority of this council. Gasps echoed through the chamber. In 3,000 years of galactic history, no species had ever rejected council authority. We are here as a courtesy, Yuna continued, to explain what has happened and what will happen next. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The images showed devastated Dominion worlds, burning hegemony fleets, and human ships patrolling conquered systems. 72 hours ago, the species in this chamber began implementing Solution Protocol 7, the systematic extermination of humanity. The display showed intercepted communications, battle plans, and the test attacks on human colonies. You murdered 340,000 human civilians to test your weapons. You plan to kill every man, woman, and child of my species to prevent us from becoming too powerful. Many of the alien delegates looked away from the images. Some tried to protest, claiming ignorance or innocence. Today, you learned the difference between humanity seeming weak and humanity choosing to appear weak. Dr. Yun Young entered the chamber at that moment. To the galaxy, she had been Earth's director of medical research. Her gentle manner and dedication to saving alien lives had made her one of the most respected humans in galactic society. Now she wore the black uniform of Earth's Biological Warfare Division. Dr. Yun Young will explain how thoroughly you have underestimated us, said Yuna. The elderly woman activated her own display. Complex genetic sequences and molecular structures appeared in the air. Every medical treatment we provided to your species contained genetic markers, she began in the same soft voice she had used to comfort dying aliens. Every cure, every vaccine, every therapeutic procedure introduced specific vulnerabilities into your populations. The chamber erupted in horrified voices. Delegates who had personally received human medical care looked down at their own bodies in fear. The Velkins we saved from genetic plague? The cure made you vulnerable to virus complex alpha. Current infection rate on your homeworld is 93%. The Velkin delegate, one of the few still alive, collapsed in his seat. The hegemony. Radiation treatments? The nanobots are still in your bloodstream. We can activate them remotely to cause system-wide organ failure. The Zelthari fertility treatments that saved your species from extinction? They included reproductive inhibitors. We can render your entire species sterile with a single command transmission. Dr. Yun Young looked around the chamber with the same caring expression she had worn while helping alien patients. We have spent 50 years positioning ourselves to kill every one of you whenever we choose to do so. Senator Kyu Hyun entered the chamber next. The elderly statesman had been Earth's most respected diplomatic voice for 3 decades. Aliens throughout the galaxy had considered him a wise and peaceful leader. Today, he represented Earth's Department of Strategic Ultimatums. Earth's terms are simple, he announced. Complete and unconditional surrender of all species that participated in Solution Protocol 7. A holographic list appeared showing the names of 14 different civilizations. Military forces will be disbanded. Governments will be dissolved. Populations will be relocated to designated worlds under human supervision. The Corvin representative stood shakily. And if we refuse? Senator Kyu Hyun smiled with grandfatherly warmth. Then Dr. Yun Young activates the biological weapons, and your species dies in agony over the course of several weeks. The blunt statement sent waves of terror through the chamber. This was not the diplomatic language the galaxy was used to hearing from humans. What about species that remained neutral? Asked the Altarian delegate. Neutrality during attempted genocide is complicity, replied Yuna. You knew what was planned and chose not to warn us. Admiral Tae-young's voice suddenly filled the chamber through the communication system. His face appeared on every display screen. To demonstrate humanity's current capabilities, we will now provide a practical example. The main display showed a view of space near the Nexus Prime station. Empty void stretched in all directions, broken only by the occasional civilian transport. Observer satellites will note the unmarked asteroids drifting approximately 50,000 kilometers from this station. Indeed, several asteroids were visible in the distance. They appeared to be natural space debris, the kind that occasionally wandered between star systems. Those asteroids are actually human military platforms. They have been in position for 15 years, disguised as space rocks. The asteroids suddenly came alive. Outer shells fell away to reveal massive weapons, systems. Energy signatures spiked as power systems activated. Each platform carries enough firepower to destroy this entire station and every ship in the surrounding area. The weapons platforms rotated to aim directly at Nexus Prime. Targeting lasers painted the station's towers with red light. They are currently armed and targeting this chamber. Absolute silence filled the room. Every alien delegate realized they were sitting in the crosshairs of weapons that could vaporize them instantly. This station exists only because humanity chooses to allow it, continued Admiral Tae-young. As do all of you. The weapons platforms powered down but remained visible and threatening. Ambassador Yoon-ah walked closer to the alien delegates. Her expression had lost all pretense of diplomatic politeness. For 100 years, you saw us as weak because we were kind. You mistook our generosity for inability. You confused our peaceful nature with military incompetence. She gestured to the images of destroyed alien worlds still floating in the chamber. Today you learned that human kindness was a choice, not a limitation. Dr. Yun-young added her own warning. Every species in this chamber is now biologically dependent on human-manufactured treatments. Stop taking our medicine, and your populations will begin dying within months. Senator Kyu-hyun delivered the final ultimatum. Earth will establish a new galactic order. Humans will govern. Aliens will obey. Those who cooperate will be allowed to live in peace. And those who resist, whispered the Nexarian speaker, will be removed from the galaxy, replied Yuna simply. The chamber remained silent for long minutes. Finally, the Corvan delegate spoke in a broken voice. How long do we have to decide? You have already decided, said Yuna. The moment you planned to exterminate humanity, you chose this outcome. She turned to address the entire chamber. Earth will now withdraw from this council. We will establish our own government for the galaxy. Species that wish to survive will adjust to the new reality. As the human delegation prepared to leave, one alien delegate found the courage to speak. You have become everything you once opposed, accused the Altarian representative. You are now the aggressive, violent species you once feared. Ambassador Yuna paused at the chamber entrance. When she turned back, her expression showed no anger or satisfaction, only cold pragmatism. Yes, she agreed. The difference is that we became monsters by choice to protect our children. You were always monsters. You just hid it better. The human delegation left the chamber. Behind them, alien representatives sat in shocked silence, trying to comprehend how completely their universe had changed. Outside the chamber, human ships patrolled every approach to Nexus Prime, the station that had once been the center of Galactic. Civilization was now just another human-controlled facility. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of human rule had begun, and everyone in the galaxy knew that humanity would never again pretend to be harmless. Director Sun Ho stood in what had once been the Dominion Coalition's Supreme Command Center. The vast chamber on Dominion Prime now served as Earth's regional administration hub for the former Coalition territories. Where alien commanders had once planned the genocide of humanity, human administrators now managed the rebuilding of conquered worlds. The irony was not lost on anyone. Through the massive windows, Sun Ho could see the capital city stretching toward the horizon. Construction crews worked around the clock to repair damage from the kinetic bombardment. But the rebuilding followed human designs now. Alien architecture was being replaced with structures that served human purposes. Status report on Sector 7, he requested from his aide. Lieutenant Wu Young consulted her tablet. Pacification complete. Remaining Dominion military forces have surrendered their weapons. Population centers are operating under emergency governance protocols. Resistance movements? 3 were identified and eliminated last week. Intelligence suggests no remaining organized opposition. Sun Ho nodded. The word eliminated had a specific meaning in the new galactic order. It did not mean imprisonment or re-education. It meant complete removal of threat potential. General Hyo Jin entered the chamber carrying reports from other occupied systems. The stocky woman had been Earth's director of humanitarian aid for 20 years. Her gentle demeanor had made her beloved throughout the galaxy as she distributed food and medicine to struggling populations. Today, she commanded the pacification of 37 star systems. The hegemony territories are fully integrated, she reported. Military capabilities have been permanently dismantled. Industrial facilities are being converted to serve human needs. What about their warrior culture? Re-education programs are showing good results. The new generation is learning to value cooperation over conflict. General Hyo Jin's re-education programs were more thorough than the gentle name suggested. Young aliens were removed from their families and raised in human-controlled facilities. They learned human values, human history, and human perspectives on galactic civilization. They also learned to see their own species' past as primitive and destructive. Administrator Young Seo entered the chamber next. She had once managed Earth's cultural exchange programs, arranging art exhibitions and music festivals throughout the galaxy. Now she oversaw what humans called the shepherding. Population management report, she announced, placing a thick data pad on Sun Ho's desk. The report contained detailed statistics on every alien species under human control. Population numbers, resource consumption, productivity levels, and compliance ratings were tracked for billions of individuals. The Velkan territories are adapting well to the new structure, Young Seo explained. Their population has stabilized after the biological adjustment period. Current numbers are at 60% of pre-war levels. The biological adjustment period was a polite term for the plague that had killed nearly half the Velkan population. The survivors were now completely dependent on human-manufactured medicines to stay alive. Labor productivity? Excellent. The Velkans are particularly skilled at precision manufacturing. We're using their facilities to produce android components and medical equipment. Sun Ho reviewed the numbers. Under human management, alien worlds were more productive than they had ever been under their own governments. Crime was nearly non-existent. Unemployment was zero. Everyone had housing, food, and medical care. They also had no freedom, no self-determination, and no hope of independence. What about the independent systems? He asked. More challenging, admitted Young Seo. They're cultural. Diversity makes uniform management difficult. We're implementing customized approaches for each species. Dr. Hua Young entered the chamber at that moment. The elderly scientist had spent decades working on terraforming technology, supposedly to help humans colonize new worlds. Her research had won numerous galactic awards for environmental science. In reality, she had been developing weapons capable of remaking entire planets. Project Genesis is ready for the next phase, she announced. Sun Ho felt a chill. Project Genesis was humanity's ultimate threat. If any species became too difficult to manage, their homeworld could be completely transformed. Atmosphere, climate, and even gravity could be altered to make the planet uninhabitable for its original species, while perfect for humans. Which worlds are being considered? The Zelthari system shows continued signs of underground resistance. Their population refuses to accept human authority. Recommendations? Complete atmospheric conversion. The process takes 18 months, but results in a world suitable for human colonization. Current population would need to be relocated. The casual way she discussed the displacement of billions of people demonstrated how thoroughly human thinking had changed. What had once been unthinkable was now simply another administrative option. Director Sun Ho activated the main display screen. Star charts showed the current extent of human control. Green systems indicated full integration under human rule. Yellow systems showed ongoing pacification operations. Red systems marked areas of continued resistance. Total progress assessment? General Hyo Jin consulted her data. 17 star systems under complete human control. 23 systems in various stages of integration. 8 systems showing active resistance. Timeline for full galaxy-wide integration? At current rates, approximately 7 years for total pacification, 15 years for complete cultural assimilation. Sun Ho studied the projections. Within 2 decades, the galaxy would be entirely under human control. Alien species would exist only as managed populations serving human interests. Their cultures, governments, and military forces would be memories preserved in human historical archives. A communication signal interrupted his thoughts. The face of Admiral Min Ho appeared on a private screen. Director Sun Ho, we have a situation developing in the Outer Rim territories. Explain. Several species have formed a resistance coalition. They're calling themselves the Liberation Alliance. Current membership includes remnants of 6 different governments. Sun Ho frowned. Military capabilities? Limited but organized. They've managed to salvage ships and weapons from our initial attacks. Intelligence suggests they're planning coordinated strikes against human installations. Threat assessment: minimal to human forces, but they could disrupt integration operations in several systems. Director Sun Ho considered the options. The Liberation Alliance represented exactly the kind of problem that Project Genesis was designed to solve. Dr. Hua Young, what would be required to implement Genesis on all Alliance stronghold systems? Simultaneous planetary conversion operations would require significant resources, she replied, but it is technically feasible. Timeline? 6 months for preparation, 18 months for complete conversion of all targeted worlds. General Hyo Jin raised a concern. That would involve relocating approximately 12 billion civilians. To where? Asked Administrator Young Seo. Designated worlds prepared specifically for resettlement, explained Dr. Hua Young. Environmental conditions suitable for their biology, but completely dependent on human infrastructure. Sun Ho made his decision. Begin preparation for Genesis. Implementation on all Liberation Alliance systems. If they want to resist human authority, they can do so from worlds where resistance is impossible. The conversation was interrupted by an aide bringing urgent reports from Earth. President Mi-young's latest address to the galaxy was being broadcast on all communication networks. On the main screen, President Mi-young stood before a backdrop, showing peaceful human colonies and prosperous alien worlds under human management. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "1 year ago, certain species attempted to exterminate humanity to prevent us from becoming too powerful." The image shifted to show before and after views of previously troubled worlds, planets that had been suffering from war, poverty, or environmental destruction now showed thriving cities and healthy populations. Under human guidance, the galaxy has achieved unprecedented peace and prosperity. Crime rates have fallen to historic lows. Resource distribution is more efficient than ever before. Technological advancement proceeds at record pace. Administrator Young CO muted the broadcast. The numbers support her statements. Quality of life has improved measurably for most alien populations. At the cost of their freedom, observed General Hyo-jin. Freedom to start wars, commit crimes, and waste resources, replied Director Sun-ho. The galaxy is better off without those freedoms. Dr. Hwa-young added her perspective. Evolution is not always voluntary. Sometimes a species must be guided toward a better path. Through the windows, they could see alien workers constructing new facilities under human supervision. The workers appeared healthy and well-fed. They received excellent medical care and comfortable housing. Their children attended schools that provided superior education. They also wore identification badges that tracked their every movement. They could not travel without permits. They had no political representation and no legal rights that humans were bound to respect. Director Sun-ho returned to the star chart showing human expansion across the galaxy. Each green system represented a world where aliens had learned to accept their new role in the cosmic order ID. President Bo-young stood at the balcony of the New Geneva complex, looking out over the transformed Earth. 5 years had passed since Operation Reckoning changed the galaxy forever. The world below showed the prosperity that came with absolute power. Floating cities drifted above the oceans, their crystal spires reaching toward the stars. Orbital elevators stretched up into space like silver threads connecting Earth to its ring of defensive platforms. Ships arrived constantly from across the galaxy, bringing tribute and resources from worlds that had once been independent. Earth was now the capital of the galaxy. Every major decision affecting trillions of beings was made from this building. The morning briefing, Madam President, announced her aide. Secretary Jun-sik Bo-young nodded and moved to the conference room. The walls displayed real-time information from every human-controlled system, population data, resource flows, military positions, and compliance ratings for billions of alien beings. The morning briefing had replaced what had once been the Galactic Council. Instead of debate between equals, there was now simply information flowing upward to human decision-makers. Status report on the outer territories, she requested. Admiral Wu Sung, the newest member of the Strategic Council, consulted his data pad. The Liberation Alliance made their final surrender last week. Resistance activity has dropped to negligible levels throughout the galaxy. Casualties during the final operations, minimal among human forces. Alien casualties were significant. The word significant was a careful euphemism. The final destruction of the Liberation Alliance had involved the complete sterilization of 3 star systems. Every living thing on those worlds had been eliminated to ensure that resistance could never grow there again. Economic integration progress? Administrator Hai Young stepped forward. She had once managed trade relationships between Earth and alien worlds. Now she oversaw the economic exploitation of conquered territories. Resource extraction has exceeded projections by 30%, she reported. Alien labor efficiency continues to improve under human management. Medical compliance, Dr. Ki Young, the head of biological control operations, reviewed his statistics. 97% of alien populations remain dependent on human-manufactured treatments. Genetic compliance markers are stable across all controlled species. President Bo Young listened to the reports with satisfaction. The numbers showed a galaxy running more smoothly than it ever had under alien self-governance. There were no major wars, no famines, no plagues that humanity did not choose to allow. But she also remembered what Earth had been like before they became the galaxy's rulers. There had been art, music, and literature created for beauty rather than propaganda. There had been scientific research conducted to understand the universe rather than to control it. There had been hope that intelligent species could cooperate as equals. Philosopher Dae Ho entered the conference room carrying his latest report on galactic culture. The elderly man had spent his life studying the development of civilizations. His work now focused on managing the cultural evolution of conquered species. The integration of alien art and literature into human cultural frameworks is proceeding as planned, he announced. Alien creative works are being reinterpreted to support human authority and galactic stability. Examples: the great Velkin epic poems now emphasize the benefits of guidance by superior beings. Hegemony warrior songs have been revised to celebrate service rather than conflict. Zelthari philosophical texts are being edited to remove concepts of independence and self-determination. President Bo Young felt a twinge of something that might have been guilt. Human scholars were systematically destroying thousands of years of alien cultural development, replacing it with propaganda that supported human rule. But she also remembered the images from New Soul Colony. The families dead at their dinner tables, the children who would never grow up, the future that had been stolen from humanity by species who saw them as a threat. Any remaining signs of cultural resistance? Some underground movements continue to preserve original alien texts and traditions, admitted Dae Ho. But each generation shows less interest in pre-human culture. The young aliens are adapting well to human values. This was perhaps the most effective part of human control. Rather than fighting alien cultures directly, humanity was simply replacing them with something better. Young aliens were raised with human education, human entertainment, and human perspectives on history. Within 2 generations, most alien species would voluntarily abandon their own cultural traditions in favor of human ones. Captain Yeon Su entered the conference room at Ida that moment. Her ship, the Cultural Exchange, had just returned from a patrol of the border systems. The name was humanity's private joke, a reminder that their greatest victories had always come through deception. Border security report, she announced. Any signs of external threats? Negative. The Andromeda observation posts report no signs of potentially hostile alien civilizations. The galaxy appears to be completely under human control. President Bo Young nodded. Humanity now controlled every intelligent species they had encountered. There were no free aliens left anywhere in the known galaxy. The dream of every conqueror in history had been achieved. Total victory, complete dominance, perfect control. But as she looked around the conference room at the faces of her advisors, Bo Young wondered what they had become in the process. Dismissed, she said quietly. As the others left, President Bo Young remained alone with the displays, showing her empire. Trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds, all living under human authority, all dependent on human mercy for their continued existence. The door opened, and young Jong-min entered. At 15 years old, he represented the first generation of humans born after Operation Reckoning. He had never known a galaxy where humanity was not the supreme power. "Grandfather wants to see you," he said simply. President Bo Young followed the boy to the residential section of the complex. Admiral Min-ho lived in a simple apartment despite his status as one of Earth's most decorated military leaders. The old man sat by a window looking out at the stars. "Jong-min has been asking difficult questions," he said without turning around. The boy stood beside his grandfather looking between the two adults. "Are we the good guys?" President Bo Young felt the weight of the question. It was the same question that kept her awake at night, staring at reports of alien compliance and resource extraction. "What do you think?" she asked the boy. "I don't know," Jong-min replied honestly. "The aliens seem happy enough. They have food and homes and medicine, but they can't leave their worlds without permission. They can't choose their own leaders. They can't even read their own history books." Admiral Min-ho finally turned from the window. His face showed the weariness of someone who had seen too much of war and its aftermath. "Tell him what you told me yesterday," Min-ho said to the president. Bo Young sat down across from them. The question deserved an honest answer, even if the truth was complicated. "Your grandfather asked me the same thing yesterday," she began. "Whether we are the good guys in this story." Jong-min waited patiently. He had learned that adults sometimes needed time to find the right words for difficult concepts. Before Operation Reckoning, humanity believed that intelligent species could work together as equals. We thought that cooperation was better than conquest. We shared our knowledge freely and helped others solve their problems. She gestured toward the window, where alien transport ships could be seen moving between Earth's orbital platforms. The galaxy taught us that we were wrong. When certain species decided we were becoming too powerful, they chose to murder every human being rather than compete with us fairly. Jong-min frowned. "So we had to fight back?" "We had to survive," corrected Admiral Min-ho. "Fighting back was just the method we chose." President Bo Young continued the explanation. "The species that tried to exterminate us made a critical error. They assumed we were weak because we were kind. They thought our peaceful nature meant we could not be dangerous." "But we could be dangerous." "We had been preparing for this possibility since we first left Earth," admitted Bo Young. "Every cultural exchange, every medical mission, every diplomatic contact was also an intelligence-gathering operation." Jong-min looked confused. "So we were lying to them?" "We were being careful," said Admiral Min-ho. "In a galaxy where some species would commit genocide to prevent competition, being careful was the same as being smart." The boy considered this. At 15, he was old enough to understand complex moral concepts, but young enough to still believe in simple answers. "Did we have to take over everything?" he asked finally. President Bo Young and Admiral Min-ho exchanged glances. This was the question that neither of them could answer easily. "After the attacks on our colonies, we had several choices," explained Bo Young. "We could have simply defeated the species that attacked us and returned to the old system." "Why didn't we?" "Because the old system had allowed the attacks to happen in the first place," said Min-ho. "As long as aliens controlled their own governments and militaries, They could try to destroy us again. So we made sure they couldn't? We made sure. No one would ever again have the power to threaten human children, confirmed Bo Young.